Today, we're looking at a turquoise ink by Thornton's Turquoise. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below so that if you're only interested in certain parts, you can skip around. But if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram. And if you're new here and like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Tasha Spectrum with a music nib, used it for a day, and used it to take the notes for this video. This first writing sample is done on a standardized set of paper of Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia. There are additional writing samples later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in cartridge form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 13 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both do show a little bit of color variation, but it does not show up in the writing. And Tomoe River. With no bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 17 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 26 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows no color variation because we don't get any. And Rhodia, with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 10 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 15 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both do show us some color variation, although we're not getting it in the writing. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see that this is a very dark turquoise that does lean blue, and this shows its way in the chromatography where it's very clearly a turquoise at the bottom, but looks very blue leaning at the top. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And it looks exactly the same as the other one, which ultimately to me means there's going to be no resistance here. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I'm surprised by how well this did. It held itself together incredibly well. It went from about about an extra fine to about a fine medium. So it had a little bit of spread, but it's very readable. I would feel safe using it in a note-taking situation if I wanted to go back and highlight. Now, water is reactivating and lifting, but it is not moving all of the ink off the paper. It is leaving a little bit of that light turquoise color in place. Pen flush is doing everything that water did and a bit more. We're starting to see the white of the paper come through. Now, I did not have to use pen flush to get this out of my pen. Water was more than enough. The 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it from the paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. I'm also linking a video that shows how I do my testing and my calculations. Thornton's Turquoise has a viscosity of 1.79, making this a wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples. Now for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Thornton's Turquoise has an average dry time of 15 seconds, making its dry time normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Thornton's Turquoise, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went for a nice black ink, and I chose Birmingham Pen Company's Emerald View Park Oxidized Brass. The second writing sample is done on Franklin Christoph and black and red paper. Here we're looking at Franklin Christoph paper. Now we get no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 13 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we're not getting any in the writing. And black and red notebooks with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is just a tad lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. We do get shading here. And I don't know why I said no shade when it came to the 1.1. There's certainly shading that's going on in there. I think it was more this is a very dull tone in that it's so consistent that you have it creates a repetition of certain things. And I think I said no shade for no reason at all, because my notes even say that it shaded there well. It shaded here decent. Took 11 seconds to dry. Medium is much darker than everything on the page with no feather spread. Halo sheen, there actually is no shade. 16 seconds to dry. Scrubby of the extra fine shows color variation, which we did get. The medium shows none, and we got none. And that is all that I have for writing samples. So what do I think of Thornton's Turquoise? This is a good, predictable, inexpensive turquoise ink. And that's everything that it has going for it. It's not going to offer a lot of shading. The color itself isn't standout amazing, but it is very solid performing. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? Well, the tone is incredibly consistent from every pen you get. Its performance is consistent. It is predictable. So dealer's choice. I don't think it matters what pen you put this ink into. I do new ink reviews every single day, so if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.